68% of public.
We need to get Dennis. We are taking that break. That will David Wahiga Mwaure.
Services without suffering financial
ambao tunafanya na kazi na
just listen.
Specialize in human rights and criminal government. Let's
2022 offers
What is a secondary school? Just from 106 high cost by narrow promise to most Kenyan children.
Raised in a nutshell as of a vision of where I wanted to be, the environment and the people who've mentored me along
of Eastern Integration and Theology. .edu, where for innovation.
manufacturers, driving global.
Your dreams, your
Bank with us, bank on us.
The 6th Learning Resource Center. My name is Ken Mijungu from
TV. Welcome to the first
have agreed to the rule conduct themselves with the utmost live across all Kenya's
also agreed to observe that not permitted to carry or
articles into
during the debate. We hope
must go on.
that's right.
His name is David Morawai. But I'm a Wanjiku and every Kenyan who is to my rather competitive my condolences to the people of a lot of Kenyans as I stand here. Few seconds remaining, and because I'm alone, as an anti-corruption friend of the people of Kenya, as a person in Kenya, for me, 59 years meal per day. Why is it gone on ahead? And right now,
Why, Mr. Wai? And be the president of.
you know, leadership, in my faith, the Christian faith, we and a senior lawyer, a senior counsel. But I'm here because I believe
Mr. Wahiga, what is unique in your preposition?
I'm tired like Kenya. I am also one of is about taking care. As a man of cloth, as a lawyer, it is an accepted international standards. People who are equally gifted, like I'm here because I believe
Bringing guidance to the people. Thoughts on that?
And every person, it does. Time comes when push comes. Ruge, we have Joyous. What I'm referring to is you one of them, but also a professional.
Sixth stab at an election.
There is one of my persons before that he had won some registration of the United States, and with election, I can tell you, like the last one of where I believe I was rigged out. That was the election, if you remember. Fatalistic attitude, but that
Would you advocate for the division
my private life? You see, it starts from of responsibility. I've started religious boards, but would I advocate? I think it that means, because basically it's they should follow. And religious organizations have they teach about taking money from the sea. Religion that talks about religious leaders who they should even be remunerated. Come again. You need to repeat that.
entrenched in the Constitution.
Right.
Be expunged completely so that it's not.
Man of color, I'm probably speaking to a person in who I am inside. Is the faith says the voiceless, but equity for all. That is
not we see on politicians, the pulpit. What is your view on this?
Of how they do things. It's so important to recognize that in our society, building context, because the churches are abuses at others. No, that speak ill of another tribe. Made our nation be what it is. Has the same message for which
you will do to ensure dirty politics are not played.
A fellow spiritual leader calling for that in my campaign. The 9th, we have a nation registry as to how they should conduct. And even church leaders who are close.
We'll now move to the topic of leadership service. That's the Law Society of Kenya. Of public service. And that I stand here tall.
Saying is that I've not been elected or appointed an appointment into any given position. Years that I've been in the legal profession. I've led a party for the last 16 years. A story of success, a party that have registered and formed before. Positions. I have in all my life I've found looking for. But you know what? The movement and a Madeira movement for a not just for me, but to turn out your question. The scandal, and yet they want to be a president. It's part of the experience you probably are referring.
Apart from telling Kenyans what you in this country, I want you to look. Why not Kenya Kwanza?
Elections of 9th August. That we have never had before. Employment as we've never had before. The internal debt that we have. Them in 2013. We had them. Like I'm asking, what is the looking at the forest? If so, why are we ashed in nations abroad? Resources. I'm not talking. Why are we here at a time like this? 215 billion. It cannot be traced. Are we here before? And the auditor cannot alone, has not of that much foreign loan, an accounted expenditure. We had hope, but it didn't.
But you haven't told us what you want to say about these candidates. The other candidates who you're running against.
One of them is He is in government. Has 30 because he's in government. That and the other one has been in government. And even right now, even this last president who wants to run for president in place in broad daylight have been reported. There are government where we had has been a co-president, and they have been there. They were even they are not helping Kenyans.
Our next topic, Higa, saying that for Kenyans, how exactly?
You know, this is a consider as a short term, and there is reduction for a reintroduction of the has been brought down, but that's retaining immediate things. We don't want to wait because those are some and our proposals have come in threesome. President, but in the same measure so that Kenya that will benefit about 16 that are accrued after the day we are to spare something to enable them put food broke. We are broke as a country. Solutions from within.
All right. Pay accounts for 25.
The amount of pay we get is 400. Will be 230. And it will perform wonders. Kenyans have to survive. Otherwise, the foreign loan we pay is at 1 point. We can persuade our friends and tell them, why don't you just accept? That will bring about 3 gap to bridge in the gap. Kenyans' pockets. Kenyans are industrial. To start their kiosks or do something else. It is just a little money, and they think we are looking into immediately now.
To that, but before we talk about that, get this legislation through Parliament, rhetorics that you're using
to bring
changing the pay as you earn.
MCAs, something that every Kenyan would want. People should not go without medicine. There is no shortcut. I'm even the one coming with something. And I believe
In your view, we don't manufacture enough.
Could be the others. Cut away, we supposed to go into our manufacturing. Money that is supposed to go into the health of our Kenyans. For instance, to date, the amount we are repaying is not the money. Evidence by a former minister. And that was in 20. He's an angry person. He had served for money that is supposed to develop. Must change. Those brothers and sisters, they did not two heads. They sisters, we can do it. It's time. Have a clean start.
Two things you're saying is the generalities. What and while you answer that, perhaps tell us.
And now come to what you're talking about, manufacturing. Henry Rotich, as he needed to be brought back. Called again, and his was a cry. 20, if that was about per day, that's about 730 billion. When into a country that we can't tell.
So Wahiga, during the deputy presidential running mate, Ruth, said that to start getting
we are in the period of election. The days already started, if you wish. It was affected, but they are believing to have been saying they wish them, but I know that we have signed instruments
having said that if these countries diplomatic ties, how practical
shows that it is supposed to be Eurobond international cooperation, international. Here I mean a nation as your friend to send back our money to be recycled.
But if they do not,
I know
will you
Kenyan There's goodwill out there. There has than I have of is Kenyan money, some of it which is out there, and yet we have not used it.
Are you telling our traditional
Do you not think that would have a on our country, our economy?
Human rights? What more human another, and we know appropriated that nation. Money to develop your nation. Can bring our money back is a campaign.
You'll go for them.
Holding our money. The nations you have made. I am telling you, 99%. The nation will be a nation where it's our time, it's our season.
Manufacturing,
Yes, you asked me to go a number of things in the way we do. One could argue and say, but we can improve on them. Problem. Twice. Corruption. I was there and I was because within the and what we were doing, told no, we've had enough. Before you need to pass, you need to go and see Mr. If the four of us were here, am I completely approved until a final? People went to and say we'll fight corruption. Kenyans don't like corrupt. Problems with the power and the infrastructure on the gone out there or gained a set up get things going, but you know, bureau.
Part of the reason why?
Part of the reason, but there's corruption. Unless we do much corruption, it's got to start there. It was a starting point. Actually, that would be part of it. Went into the SGR. It took away, brought back into the country. The former Prime Minister knows what the person in the intelligentsia. When you're not ready to come on a podium like
economy, outside. You mentioned earlier to money from Kenya that is outside, because it says that about 12.5 flow from Kenya to the other countries by Kenyans outside are not how do you go for everything?
No. The minister of the 14 months, it was the Treasury Cabinet Secretary. And they knew about it. He's been sent round, so it was. So I find no reason why. I've seen other. And 30 billion. That's what we lose per year. That is 5 trillion. $8.2 trillion Kenya shillings. Corruption. And the 2 billion for us.
Perhaps they took a portion of it. Could you just be misleading?
And later he was tried his best. The word he used was
really lost. It goes.
The institute said, for me, it's way to some countries. The shepherd I referred to, concerning matters corruption, and I just recently, it's not even 1960. Forward with corruption.
Let's just come back to between food droughts, millions, speaks very little to climate. Is your government going to put in place
we in my team talking of today, we're going into what were the centigrades. Measures will do, but even the fact that first one is a poll tax. We have in Kenya, we are seeing in other nations about this matter. Before what there for us, yes, sorry, come again. What was that?
my question,
we must bring education. That we have laws that have to do. Now, you know, we have cut down above Kenyan is very watered. Why did we allow this building? Sources of water. We must get to a point where we say,
climate change and ensuring
the office of the president will keep ourselves. We have talked about, we've talked about bringing we've talked about getting Kenya to where a lot of studies have come into being. The nation of have been disappointed. That was in the Jubilee government. It is one of the two areas. Please to vote me. That one, I'll keep an eye on. I'll organize. We sensitization. They want a.
just before we move on to the next, how you intend to bring down
most I can talk of is by trillion. If we did things right, if we put them to the use they should, up to 10, 20 trillions instead of B, and we are not unthankful. I am really talking of, if I can give 10 trillion. This give credit to, and I will report, trillion. Look at what 1.14, what you have 20. And see a nation, 59, London, Singapore, to make Kenya to be.
Okay, and we and a number of Kenyans are, and even the adult population, some of them even percent of Kenyans tonight will go to 800,000. What is the
in the formal sector?
yes?
Bad out there. Things are real bad. Never to create employment at all levels. Siphoning the 2 billion for the government or the president to move forward. Was 40%. Above even what, but that's above to ensure that for us, we devolved but we never devolved the village. The job creation will come from there. They will decide that we need to have this it is down at that level what rejecting money. I think I am not just somewhere. If talked about how we should not less than $500 billion Kenya of it. Look at the wonders it can do. Startups, we've talked about can be able to move forward. So known as Turi. I remember when I was this small place where they were building in the area. Okay. Then I was in primary school. Of Molo, we had things calling Pesa Mashinani. We will inject.
James Monia working in Nairobi. Your government support in the police service. And the cases of
and I need to say that impunity is a situation where to be above the law. And then judiciary, we will pay them well. We've talked about covenants with men and women in you get them to us extrajudiciary. It's because of impunity. You know, and we have seen courts into every county. When we are measured, the sky is date, and I'm grateful this week and continue doing this. It's part of impunity.
Ministry of Health has allocated 0 of this country.
Issues of mental health.
I think the suggestion was the growing, and I know you'll be asking who have suffered from that. We have said a lot about in our also AFIA concerning this is something we will want to give primary school, if not high school. With means and ways and means. Taking your life the next 1 minute. Has oversight over who licenses. We've talked about NET we will demand. We've been saying we have, you know what, before the end of our more, and we have gone as much, and we have even been had to say we are not able to give 1 trillion. It's unaccounted for. It's nowhere. Left, and after a few months, money went to.
All right, this is on the issue of education. Your biggest is January, when 2 into secondary school of congestion, because already
I'll be the first one to address it. I know I have not been able to go into them, but first of all,
saying that you are also going
students, it's from the lowest money to find our economic. If we have an abacha in this nation, serious on this matter, but and we will consult the CBC, like
but I'm not
the overlap
problem that you're going to face. You wouldn't have much time. Money, you'll have money by January.
Money, but I think there are no easy. We will have to see what we can do. For that specific number, but we have in terms of a specific like that, but we'll have to find ways to turn some must go to school, must get a learning. It's as a president, I will not say not days.
You understand money to Kenya, the money must be an issue of the law.
That we can stop corruption. I know because of the steps we are taking. Wahiga is seeking to improve our life. Not only that, we will talk. Kenyans will.
I'd like to take you back now to out and saying it's not working, it's very expensive. Took a stand on CBC earlier on. Ministry of Education and the President. My first question is, would you why?
I have met parents as well. But I have met parents from across. I passed through a bit of CBC. Clinical subjects known as I could do for myself because I've been. It can't continue like this. But again, we have said we would like Kenya to be the countries.
Okay.
So
block that perhaps you're looking at a very bad run, according to them. Their interests, if you were elected president,
oh yeah. We about increasing salaries, about the welfare of the men in the, of the money that has that. I would want Kenyans to be proud. Who is now going to almost 100 years. And he is still there. He made a good day's job, but they are not paid. Country who are doing their job, who want.
But I want to bring a question to you. If you, it was declared that a global health emergency. This health crisis, monkeypox would have come just
I'm waiting if the president does and not just announce who. I appreciate Kenyans who listen and want that can fund and elsewhere in the exchange. Careful about who does what, because that's where we got the KEMSA billion.
Does your party
of the talked about actually we have talked about a health commission money of the health.
before we, so
we
you
will
don't.
call upon friends, the Deputy President or the Right Honourable. We will call upon friends and we will ask Kenyans, come to the aid of it. We will get help, we'll cross that bridge.
The debate tonight.
I am told a number of you have already question I want to ask, why we are where we are. Some who don't even interrogated are saying the point where to move forward, we need to I'll come like the biblical David. Kenya kabisa, naomba kura.
Our appreciation to televised national.
And of course, the end, the second president, Felix Yvonne Okwara of Citizen TV. Name is Ken Mijungu of KT.
Tonight.
Minutes are done. David, of course, his opponent, the podium that you saw there. But here we are. We have listened to a dramatic evening here. Here, Professor Alex Awiti. Maybe that's a will be set for the evening, but
Year of a redemptive leadership, in faith, but values, and a little bit by the parallels between him. I think we have to recognize that, forward to put themselves forward.
Thank you very much. Your opponent, the man you were meant to, declined to take part in this debate.
I'm doubly disappointed because I feel like I can fly because you ask yourself, who can you depend on? Why don't we interrogate it in a elated? Because I was being honest. The done in the past. And if you've been in I gave, explain where
the Agano Party presidential Joe.
thank you very much. And he believes assessment on this end, and I do.
This will rock up as a result. Important part of the second. I think there are a number, and they're not just Christian. Interesting for me. The second point that I want to heard something interesting there that I think all 300 people are diagnosed with the fifth or sixth highest. We have the you can use your NHIF card treatment. But the question we have people, I've not heard a going to people with disabilities and spaces for minorities. We need to see more focus on
and Professor Witty, how Waiga Maure was trying to drop it. Basically says that he is each every one of them according to him. That he was making, and did he succeed?
Characterize it as a pastoral, and you could see in his values. So he was spot on the really best from the heart. And because again, the question is basically serving this country. The question he asked, which is pertinent, is why are we here? Basically brought us to this mess. Country that is devoid of the fifth, he's the real deal.
And he talked a lot about that. The values that Alex was referring to.
This regression that has happened in the systems and all that, there are people who actually
my sense is, before the other, we have accepted falling standards.
Wow.
Debates by himself.
Yeah.
That morals, because that's yes, yes. I institution. What are the ethics of serving in public office? A lot of those names are people who are not,
which we apply all the time. Innocent until proven guilty, and they now talking about is a different standard.
The criminal standard, chapter 6, which.
But how do we get there?
Well, the Constitution,
how do we get
the Constitution? Looking forward to August 9th on the ballot, and as respect and honor to public office. It is public service is bequeathed to you. You take care of it. You nurture it. Back to us. You have come. It's like you've given, and then they bring it back to you and of smaller value and this country on a strong foundation. What we need to do, and then we. That can't happen without talking about what he made on issues around. I saw him, and has proposed in his manifesto. Built is funded a lot on the Asset Recovery Agency involved in
be led, that you need leadership about the place that is going to drive this anti-corruption.
They are able to run without political. If, for instance, we will fall some and appointed, but here ensure that their leadership is competent in some of these institutions under the presidency. So
but I would like to hear what Wanjiru Higa Maure's 90 minutes.
The smaller parties, the fringe. Tried. I'm not sure what the. Important issues. And I think this is that's bedeviling Kenya. And them a lot more successful. Missing is the good governance. Is in the. I think as a Gano party, kind of push up the numbers and get happening. I mean, first of all, right now we are working. And as long as we are doing coalition in terms of not just showing up around elections, but central issue bedeviling us.
Is it as big as the behavior? The electorate in any one direction.
The green movements, where you've had what was maybe a bit of a free. I agree with all the panelists that it's to Agano reminds us going to remain in this might achieve the economic potential that
economy, because what I'm hearing around this table is that in any exhaustive way, if you do
economy without talking about corruption that are being made now, from what I'm seeing, effect does not have such an effect. Goes back to basics. For me, that every corrupt act is the negative. So you can't fix. They are related. He makes a good point, eh? But there's no one. He's telling us fix the legacy thing.
But is that it's lost every day? It's possible whether that is because and it's almost as if
2 billion is probably the total of.
the general talk about a third of the budget.
In terms of tax expenditures, tax 100 billion a year. It was in 2020. Unaccounted.
Yeah, unaccounted.
Sometimes I lose some notes.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Right? One is this one, right? It's an important issue in this country, but yet because we're not big enough to deal with the problem. To deal with issues of corruption that is you can just simplify this conversation. The first, put in the face of temptation, a fear of consequences. If you have in positions of power who have no conscience, to criminalize it, we have to make sure that people are, with a light touch, with their a metal detector.
Yes,
they will be people who have disgraced their office.
Making it costly and punitive and of the former MP for where people actually I won't touch you until you sort out your easy way to yes, it's a thief maybe
to the people. They're also going back convinced and mobilized, there's been a lot of exchange of money. Mediate others, there's been a lot of corruption, and that's how these people continue. But what we need, the only way is by punishment. There's a question we're not really looking at. React. When you're given an option, we go for the people who are. We need to see some kind of
all right. candidate and Deputy President William
kwanza kufika ni mwaniaji manifesto zake zieleweke. Ghairi kutoshiriki mjadala. Samuel Ruto akiingia katika mjadala na Joe Ageo ni fursa ya kipekee wakileta ajenda ya kwamba kama wana aliweza kutoa swali hilo na mtu mmoja andamana nao katika siku ya leo pamoja na kupitisha kampeni zako, kasema siku ya leo
Wakenya waweze kujua mapema, waende wapige kura gani, na ndio kueleza manifesto yetu wa Kenya na taifa letu kwa ujumla. Kupunguza gharama ya maisha, wanaweza kuendelea na beleza kinaga ubaga ya uongozi wa taifa letu.
Watu wawili ambao walikuwa muhimu katika ule kipaumbele katika siku ya leo ya mjadala.
Walihusika katika kutengeneza wananchi kama mama huyu anatarajia kujua ni vipi mtoto wake na ni mpango gani. Haya ni baadhi ya mambo Wakenya
Daktari akisema kwamba katika siku ya leo ya kujua mengi na wachanganuzi
coalition in this election about what he believes, what he hopes to talk about during arriving with trying to remind
imagery just to construct those two people is still ethnic. Mwaura does not have to even then invite this afterwards. And this ethnic political
of these things, and some people say
it is still a. And when you see even your colleagues in in the big Kamba vote. Employment. How come we don't see that even Maure today, President William Ruto and even Raila Odinga, that leads to jobs. We still, every young people can start a business. They don't want a business. It's like their MPs. This economy.
Wanjiru to kind of in about 20 minutes time, platforms on which they are running. But approaching this or similarities you see to receive, hopefully we get both of them.
I think in terms of economy, because there is a recognition as the primary one. It's different, but they prioritize to manufacturing. Look at saying if that's where people are employed, the UDA side, they also prioritize ICT. Have prioritized the both, that you really need to engage the majority. Kenya Kwanza takes more of a social democratic development, and as manifestos manifesto was a kind. So we must hold these in the opposition to their and it's very explicit. This as part of their rights-based approach, they have. But they do touch on leadership. But when you look at governance, is to strengthen institutions, giving them enough money.
Yeah.
But they do not.
And I want us to discuss that. But Dennis, I wonder what two platforms that
okay.
In fact, it is.
I think either 1 minute to me. So
1 minute to him.
It's about feel really uncomfortable. In 2021-2022, by June, budget estimates at 3 trillion. Huge debt overhang. His proposals about he has got a very agrarian tourism works. His whole fixation really undermines the credibility. They run a state bureaucracy.
Had he stayed back to I don't know how many of your minutes are left, but
Azimio comes across as more looking at the market side. They talk about Kenya Kwanza. I was saying, empowering people. KK has gone much deeper. Infrastructure Bank, they've gone into much more detail. So there's no element, right? There are no underpinning value. In the forward constitution, it would be very interesting to see what that.
Especially from where you sit.
Well, and why there was some the legislative them are not looking at even as a make will struggle. So all the okay, some for Jakwe, both institutional policy and which, as we have said, has been a problem that to be able to operate, but to their institutional, functional enforcement, but we are not looking at from a prevention lens, people who have been accused, they're
okay, so Hudson, you have only break to go to the
I think we now have some ideas that are of course we're waiting to see budgets, but I think the harder questions will be we have huge recovery going to do with this
and I think
so these are some of the challenges
and we break right now, and when we come back has for us hoping that break for the second
the UHC coverage in the UHC Step Up, which so take the bold step today and health for all.
Kwa majina 2013 ambapo tukatibiwa tukahudumia
a secondary school in Kenya, where you find ultra more and the best teacher-student ratio, understaffed, lacking basic given that KCAC is the most Usawa agenda calls for small schools to grow.
People often do. If leaders
hospitali kujifungua, niliacha watoto wangu nyumbani wakiteseka.
men are lawfully killed.
Kwa jina naitwa Hussein Moyo. Iko ni yao, na hiyo ni kitu piga watu na kuwavunja raia. Tunatimiza hapa kwa jamii yetu, yani
Since 2022, offer vote. Your vote counts. Choose and then hold your leaders accountable.
Knows how, it's like a chess player.
ushuru wake anataka aone.
I think it's important that wealth is declared frequently, wealth very quickly.
We need leaders who are well done worlds.
Kwa mfano mtu mwenye taaluma una uhakika kwamba
dreams and goals. Your dream
visit and one transaction. Park on us.
Information. I think once a joint I didn't know who I was and what I was. I 100% vouch for.
Actuarial Science International, Regional Integration and Theology.
Who come by all assistance, Kenya Association of members to grow and scale up their manufacturing sector. Global competitiveness.
Here in Nairobi, my name
I'm Yvonne Okwara of Citizen. Four presidential candidates. This is the last of media fraternity.
the candidate most decorum address each other. Their platforms.
The candidates standards of ethics in not permitted to carry or listening devices, including. But luckily, we have
Ethics and guidelines also remove journals, manifestos.
Each candidate will have 2 minutes. Assessment of the state of our nation. Parts of the country.
In line with have not been shared with any of the campaign. Which I'll be asking tonight are entirely.
Has also agreed to the audience has also agreed to civility, right.
Raila Odinga of the Azimio la Umoja Alliance UDA. We have he shall not be taking part in
presidential debates initiative to permit the audience here. UDA presidential candidate
we shall conduct whose topics have already been shared. In thrust of the questions tonight.
A husband, a dear wife Rachel, who is in this debate. And I have come debate because our country mounting challenges. But there is tremendous, I believe, a moment. 5 million young people who today we have no access to credit. I am the country.
Thank you here tonight, and that is the on unga, on fertilizer, that's subsidies.
I believe that to an extent. I'm right. Because we foresaw this situation. But then, that matters food security. Definitely, that plan. So we find ourselves in our agricultural sector. The fertilizer subsidy program. Why did we to deal with the cost of activity and to increase, number one, make sure farmers are make sure the farmer unfortunate situation we're in. So we have set out with $1 billion revolving fund. We have added a 12 on agricultural to use the latest with access to fertilizer. Not triple our agriculture. The 2 million farmers can actually sufficient supply so the solution to the average expenditure of families of their income on food.
President, if I may just interject. In the first term of your deal with agriculture, when you say today that the agenda was
it was sabotaged
by
because course and we went on a tangent to handshake, and the rest is the people of Kenya to do. I tried, and many times my boss, the president, asked me to help him deliver for the president. And was the whole of that program
during the first term. What happened?
Galana Kula first 10 on the first 10,000 came into being. And from the trial on that, because the water from the river had to scale up now and do the production of maize and move from there, because unfortunately,
also said that they were facing frustration with the implementation of the Galana Kulalu project.
Was part activity from Rainfed. It was not just about what we call the high Grand Fall dams. It was place the deliverable for our second term program.
Continue to understand in the contracting of it. In terms of payments that were around the manner in which the contract that then states that with respect to the manner term of the Jubilee administration.
The contract actually it didn't go the full hog. It was getting there. The first crop had acres, which was really the target. But even without the today would still today for the Unga has gone to 200. That provide subsidy of 5 million bags. That plan was when the subsidy we are not here Kulalu was supposed to give us that would even why Kenya today is or from Tanzania is because our and that is why for the things we didn't do because
term, and that is why we still had
maize flour went 2017, 2-kilogram packet of it is retailing at 2. As we should have produced. Always supported them.
A current subsidy in place.
What we need to do is to, because 50% I think it's time. I think there are 15 different. I think it's time we relook taxes that are in different but those 15 and taxes, which ones we can limit? Take for example,
let me
VAT.
ask. Yeah.
Was the latest inclusion. It was very controversial.
Yeah, Honorable. It was indeed controversial. Members have been convinced by our 8% VAT on petroleum added on VAT. Today, products, why should Kenyans believe you?
We live in a dynamic country who don't change their mind. Was imposed, then the
when the VAT was imposed, facility. Today we find IMF facility, and once again, the point IMF has in fact said products. So with an IMF that is already in place regarding IMF,
I think any looking at the days sinking below the to sit down with our development and have a discussion. And 8%, we need that are outstanding. And that we can, we have the fuel. Think about how that fund has value and how conversation with our development. They are reasonable people. I think some of the terms that have been
conversation tonight. You say our partners, Honorable Ruto, you just last week around renegotiating our debt. Respect to your competitor who is not restructure our debt.
For I believe our debts, and mark you,
which is a loan.
Country is a position. I think that I would do on how to manage on unbudgeted budget, so that we cannot committed 5% of need to raise our revenues. All collectible VAT. That would give us an extra 400. And added on to that, if you raise that corporate tax, an additional to funding, additional
our national debt as it stands today.
Debt today, we are not sitting pretty. We are that we should stop. Last time, we borrowed from 2017 0.2 trillion. Government partners, they are beginning. Our administration remove there are areas
you are targeting. Speaking about
fiscal deficit. In there, so these are the kind of
Honorable Deputy President.
Yes.
We spent
Actually, unbudgeted projects fast, and that's why of finance. You will hardly find any, because on contingency fund, of the budget, where we need to. We not only have also have a plan on raising much more resources we want to know that of how we must slow down and see how we can externalize exchange to areas of raising revenue. shares of Safaricom. If we use the different instruments using the instruments we have, avenues and minimize
some of our lenders, like the
those have a right and to have access is against under the Kenya Constitution.
This republic, is this not?
When you are deputy, understand to what extent let me see the metal of being president. All along, I am undertaking
So, but it did not. I've seen you protest about this particular matter. Why would Kenyans believe?
Because I have never been president vying to be president. Office of president. This
Mr. Deputy President, that and expressly said that public
took place.
It
is not in my
making
place.
sure that and several court orders.
And I have taken many. Did not look and I have taken very firm. And I think people that I take what I believe positions. I am saying here
the question of the SG of your administration. As a Deputy President, you don't have any public. Why?
They of the Republic to discharge on matters is to serve people equally. I have made my position. It is not a matter of purposes of functional.
All right, I have just from what I understand, and you can in respect to making these quote, I can only do so much as a deputy. You have stated that responsible for not
and I have answered you. Concerned, I have been advised to a particular issue. So that is made public. I have so
Honorable Deputy President, you were recently in the valley that you do everything in 300 people have died in the last killed by armed bandits. Killed. Kerio saying that their government has of protecting people's as an assistant minister.
the feeling. It's yesterday. It's not Elgeyo Marakwet. The leaders there told us people in that neighborhood alive and serious matter. Is 16. Elgeyo Marakwet, Pokot. Because of that meeting, and we provide police reserve. But when a false narrative pulled out that, oh, all were actually a reckless act. The situation went south. Yesterday in Elgeyo, today bringing the military, a huge maze. Because of insecurity. So, children not to be in school. It is causing.
But Honorable
Let me tell you,
spoken out about the issues like they told you. Where have you been?
We've taken many of those people. employed my personal resources. No, it was a political police reserve. Real tragedy, but that
was done to punish you?
people to...
How would that punish you?
In fact, I am the one in that region. I was there every... the security men, the identification. So it looked like it was... You live in Kenya, and you know...
Are you telling the people of... just because a government... You... tell us, over the last... continuous cycle of violence in West Pokot, even going as far as
the biggest to the situation we have in competition for pasture, education. Aror, Kimwar, that in these areas people are fighting. It is a granary from that region. Enough rivers to be tapped. It's twofold. For irrigation and let boat from Parbelo cut in a place called Marich Pass through a pedo from the other. The solution, opening up that in terms of water infrastructure.
Should you be elected president?
Yes. It's meant to fail.
As the deputy president, in the term that you've been deputy president, people that have been scheming to...
That's not what I'm saying. We have, we to make sure that we can, right? We had a plan. Let's provide national police. Then let's provide. You ease out people from education. They have food. Of Kenya is because we have people have been fighting in that region.
Let's go back to the issue of And you say that as well.
It was
some of the
cancelled
court
for
filings,
political reasons.
that in fact necessary debt to this friends and co Ruto, that there is a and also politically in court?
And at the same time, companies funded, witnessed, were cooked at night. How come projects that did not go through in court? Because the contractor has gone to court. I mean, that should concern. Forget about the court matter here. Port in London, and the government, and they cannot afford to make it continue with the project because the dam, and we're going to give you land, we're going to carry out for you to build the dam. In our forest. How many dams? We have many other dams in the forest. And that's why I am. How will the government of Kenya build Aror and Kimwarer? It's the motive.
Do you believe
those people should be taken to court?
But you one that was being alleged by
statement. I am very clear. Right? That's what I said. It was actually insured. What we should be asking is 7 billion is a well-connected been put to them.
So what you're alleging?
Marvel at what
really happened, because what it sounds like, there are suspects in court this issue. If this different arms of government are concerned, the courts to punish you.
That matter has now been in court, been dancing. Everybody is actually waiting to carry the shit, unfortunately. Mention after mention after. And it's an act of
7 billion.
No, I'm just saying eventually I will make sure that imposed on this project
of national security, I think will under Article 204, the equalization marginalized areas, the ones we've been talking about, and education projects. Why?
Two things. A limit. Right? And Budget Council. Nope. Especially when in 3 years, we made rooted and instead of 3 years. Will tell you that I have every matter, whether it matters to do with conditional grant, and what goes to county government, issues to do with settling matters, liabilities, one that we concluded the other can borrow money to have the leverage. What I have done.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Never been operationalized. 20-year
fund
window.
As halfway through that because listed to the counties on how this fund would and some projects were implemented, some became another big argument. Fund. And that is why that equalization fund that we devolve it to counties. Government.
Thank you, Honorable. Is Constitution and of constitutionalism. Do you think has not been
put out the 2/3 people of Kenya is implemented? It was wrongly put under. Believe that there are functions contingent. Local authorities, for example, those are functions. We have a Kerio Valley Development Authority. I think it should be managed by. I have raised, for example, in implementing this the Judiciary Fund was operationalized. That I believe that we should be able
Go back to the two-thirds gender principle in terms of getting this since 20.
I think to make there are different proposals. Their constitutional change. Competent constitution and really for the fact that we do not have as the women leadership is actually taking away our governance and our why, for example, when the fact that women were financial in the Senate. So that had been given to the women of Kenya in the national into the Senate. Women of Kenya.
Also, by dint of the Constitution, operationalizes this fund.
Independence raising this issue of other pieces of legislation directly from the consolidated. That should be it. That I have heard on the Judiciary Fund. When I said I'm going to set up the judiciary, the fellow is pushing too hard. Take it to the people of Kenya.
Because previously, in this limits to what the deputy president can do.
I may not have
Such as
as a leader.
Why couldn't you do that then?
And it's to stall it. Immediately after the election, eat waste. Because and the independence of the judiciary change that seeks to where we were in the world. And that is why.
Do you believe in the independence of the judiciary?
I don't know how to answer you. In fact, if there is judiciary, it is William Ruto. To the so-called ombudsman appointed by the executive.
administration which you have served for disobeying court orders. 6 million shillings, but the matter involving the swearing. In fact, former Chief Justice court orders. You are the. What are your thoughts there?
Two things in the independence. Judiciary issued a ruling for us to go back. Much as we criticized, believed that we had won that election, we still obeyed. You have raised incidences sorted out. And even as we developed our money, that as an issue that in disobeying orders.
Honorable, a good matter for me to. Which has defied you called them Wakora.
One-on-one with Maraga, a legislator, and he told me this. When I first became a member of parliament when you support the system is pointing out I would want to understand in what context mentioned, because I is to went back to the election, and that there are so many outstanding, and they are part of what I don't think if you